All right. Sunday morning. Got my guitar wank mug. You know what that means? It's time to drink coffee and talk about guitars and guitar gear. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Um, because the first thing that I'm kind of messing around with here today and talking about is a new, this thing. It's a little lav mic, and it's from Samson. So it's wireless. And on the other end of this, you can't see it, but there's a little USB hub wireless receiver. So it looks like almost like a, it's not much bigger than like one of those USB hard drives, a stick you'd plug into your computer. And that's the receiver for this thing. So let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I'm going to experiment over the next few weeks with these things and see. I've got a few different options, both from Samson, also this type of unit, little lav mic, also a large diaphragm condenser microphone that they make that has a USB. It's basically a USB audio interface as well. So kind of a mic that's made for podcasting, recording music and stuff. And okay, so Rented says audio is fine, but a tad low maybe, which I noticed. I've got the gain cranked up on it. So this is kind of all the gain that I seem to be able to get with it. It sounded good. I recorded a little video with it and listened back to the video, and the sound of the little microphone was real cool. Just this little lav guy right here that's on my hoodie. But I noticed that the gain seemed a little low. So let me know if it works for you guys. So yeah, and then also I'm going to do a USB microphone similar to the Samson one in a couple weeks from Audio Technica. I'll try that one. Maybe I'll try that one next week. So just kind of giving them all a shot, and seeing what works the best. So it's great. We got 71 people online already. That's awesome. I just got back from Cyanide Junkie says, "You good?" I just got back from Germany and the UK, where I did, I guess, I want to say it was 4 clinics, maybe it was 5. I think it was 4, including attending the Guitar Summit in Mannheim, Germany, which is kind of it's almost sort of replaced Music Messe over there as the kind of trade show that's specifically for guitars, as I understand it. As that show kind of like has become not such a big thing in the last few years, I guess, especially for guitars. This Guitar Summit developed out of it, and it's kind of like a little mini NAMM show for specifically guitars and basses. So I did the first of the series of clinics that I did in Europe. I did there, and it was, I didn't know. I was like, there's going to be like 6 people show up or something. I didn't know what had been done for promotion, and there was about 250 people in the room, so I was super stoked. It's by far the biggest one I've done. I only had about 45 minutes, so I had to kind of condense it into 45 minutes, but I managed to get all the way through my song. What I do in my clinic is I track a song live, track 5 different guitar parts. I talk a little bit about drums and bass and stuff like that, but primarily it's tracking the guitar tones and talking about how I do it. So it was really fun. And as you can probably hear in my voice, I'm just a little fatigued, a little jet lagged and stuff, but I'm here and ready to gab. It's Daniel from Vancouver, BC. He says, "Hi from beautiful Vancouver, BC. That's cool, man. I got to get up there for a trip sometime soon. I totally miss that place. It's been at least 5 years, which is way too long, because I used to go there all the time. I've got a lot of friends there." Tom says, "Peach Clinic was amazing, dude." Thank you, man. Tom Gleason. That was a really fun one too. I'll say that in Europe they have some incredible music stores, and Peach Music is one of those. It's really, just a beautiful shop with a huge range of gear and guitars. There's a couple pictures up on my Instagram if you want to check it out. But just look at the sheer size of the place, and I mean, I'm only taking a shot from where I was sitting in the clinic, looking out at it's this big, massive room that kind of looks like a big saloon or something, and with a beautiful selection of electric guitars, acoustic guitars, pedals, kind of everything under the sun there. I was really knocked out by it. It was a great, great shop, as well as Guitar was also really cool. Also in the UK, and Session Music in Germany was also a great shop. They just got some really cool stores. Let's see. Michael's asking. He says I just bought another beautiful G&J or G&L guitar. Sorry. Are you a fan of the brand? I've never bought a G&L guitar, but they always seemed really nice to me. You know, Leo's business venture after Music Man. I've just never gotten one, but every one I've picked up seemed like a pretty quality instrument. Aaron says you sound great. Good. I mean, I guess maybe it's not all about the volume of the microphone. I'm always trying to kind of pump up the level, but with that comes added noise and stuff. So maybe you guys can continue to let me know if you like the sound of this little Samson. It's called if anybody's interested, it's called the PXD1, and it's a little wireless lav mic with a USB receiver on the other end that just goes into your computer, and in your audio preferences you just select it as being the input, sound input, and it seems to work pretty well. Volume is kind of low, says Ron. Yeah, I've got it cranked. The output on I've got both my Mac input cranked and the output on this one cranked. So maybe it's made for kind of loud environments or something like that. But other people are saying sounds great, and the sound is better, which is good. You know, as long as it sounds better than what you guys are used to, because I know it's a drag. Maybe a bit bassy. That's not so bad though. Get the full tone of my voice. Sound is much more present, says Murray. That all sounds good. Hi from Istanbul. That's cool, man. Somebody's over in Istanbul. It's been a few years since I was there, maybe 10. And Ireland, we've got about 150 people online. That's awesome. Brett says, let's cut to the chase. I've been wanting a new amp, so when is the low watt PT100 being released? I'll cut to the chase. I think basically just building a prototype right now, and once that's ready, you know, to be honest, I mean, I think it would be around NAMM, but we had hoped before, so you know, I think we're definitely going to see it by then, at the very latest. So it's only a few months out now, really. I've seen, you know, lots of the completed. Probably shouldn't. John always gets mad at me when I talk about things, but you know, I'm not saying anything we've been talking about it forever. It's coming, and you know, we've got a prototype head shell, and they were just waiting on a chassis so they could build up all the parts there, the transformer and everything, and can't really talk that much more about it because I want to keep it a surprise. But anyway. It's coming, and I can't wait. It's going to be really exciting, and there's some things that it does that no other amp on earth does. So we've managed to come up with some things that are, at least at this point, as far as I know, in other amplifiers, totally unique. Celestion IR 112, 212, or 412, says Ray. They're all good. I've used all three different ones. Like, for instance, when I was setting up the Line 6 Helix to use as my backup rig in Japan, I used the most similar thing to the cabinet that I actually have on stage, the PT matching cabinet for my amps. And so in that cabinet is G12H Creamback 75 speakers. So I used a closeback Celestion G12H Creamback 75. I believe just with 57 on it, because I wanted to closely replicate the cabs I'm actually using, so that the sound would be really similar to what's actually in front of house if they had to switch over from one setup to the other. And those sound great. I mean, it was just killer. So 212 with the G12H Creamback 75s. I've also used the 412 extensively with greenbacks, also with the G12H Creambacks. It was interesting talking to Andy, though, from Celestion about the 112 cabs. You know, you would think, oh, 412, that's always the way to go if you want a really big sound. But Andy was really gravitating towards the 112s. Like, say, if you might normally gravitate towards a closed back 412 mic'd sound, he was really digging, he was surprised that he was digging the tone of the 112 closed back cabinets, because he felt like it was purer and a little more direct, maybe because you know, when you're miking a 412, there's other speakers are kind of getting in the microphone a little bit, and there's sort of more maybe possibility of some sort of phasey stuff happening in the sound. Whereas the 112 is just that one speaker, and it's real punchy and got a real cool quality to it. So try both. Try 112 closed back IRs if you're usually a 412 closed back fan, and see if it's not maybe your favorite. Gain too low, says another person. I'm sort of stuck with it at this point, so I'll just try and talk into the mic. But most people are saying that it sounds good. I don't know. I know it looks a little low. Let's see. Rented is asking, any idea where I can buy the new album in a lossless format download? I don't think it's possible. I'm not sure if iTunes offers that sort of 129. Don't they do that? No, lossless download. I distribute it to CD Baby. The ones to actually ask would be CD Baby because they do the distribution. I could try and find that out for you this week and then get back to you next week. In other words, when you release some original music through something like CD Baby or TuneCore or DistroKid, you can kind of opt in for the partners, the digital partners you want it to be distributed to, and I just sort of pick them all. So it goes to Amazon, it goes to obviously to iTunes and Apple, et cetera, right? I don't know if they distribute specifically to some sort of high-grade audio file, sort of lossless format. I do send them the lossless, FLAC or FLAC or whatever they're called files. That's what they get. So it's possible that there's a store out there. I can try and look into that this week and see. But if you want a quicker answer, maybe than you might get from me, I would say just give CD Baby a call and ask them. They've got just go to cdbaby.com and there's a 1-800 number right there on their site, and you could probably give them a call and say, hey, I'm looking for this one album that Pete Thorn 2 album that he distributed through you guys. Do you distribute to a site? I would like to know, actually. I have no idea. It's a good question. Yes, please comment on the PT50 and a special bridge we all want. I saw Trev Wilkinson at the Guitar Summit, and that's from Adam. I saw Trev Wilkinson at Guitar Summit, and he said that they were boxing them up, the bridges, and sending them out now, sort of thing. So I would assume that they're imminently arriving, and that's all I know about it. A lot of the PT guitars have gone out to stores, like they were showing up at Peach when I got there. They'd just gotten 2, and so if anybody's waiting on one of those that they've ordered, they're out there now. Let's see, move down a little bit. How do I know if one of my pedals has a buffer in it? I'm getting an Analog Man silicone fuzz, and I want to make sure silicone. And I want to make sure I run it correctly. Well, just try running it right into the amplifier at first and see how it reacts. If it's a silicone fuzz, you should be fine, actually. Most of those work pretty good with a buffer in front. It shouldn't matter, but just give it a try. Try just your guitar right into that pedal, into the amp, listen to how it responds, and then put it on your pedal board and see if it sounds the same or similar, or if it sounds really messed up. Most silicone fuzzes I've never had issues with buffers in front. It's the germanium ones where you run into trouble. Peach Guitar says, more margaritas. Nice to see you guys online and here for the chat. Wow, we got almost 200 people. Super cool. Let's see. Marek says, hi Pete, do you think it's better to learn scales or chords? Chords, because then you can play full songs. And rhythm guitar, which is what you'll end up doing hopefully 95% of the time. But no, you want to learn both. And the reality is that it's really important to, even for soloing, be thinking about chords and chord shapes, so that as the chords are going by, you're not just sort of noodling through scales. You want to be aware of what the chord changes are, so that when a certain chord comes along, you can kind of, if it's your choice, musically target some of the notes in that chord during your lead playing or improvising, or even if you're writing a part like a melody, you'll have a better awareness of, the music and the tonally, if a chord is happening, a certain chord, you'll know those target notes that are in that chord, and you can make good melodic choices. It just gives you, sort of more musical knowledge and firepower to deal with when you're coming up with ideas. Okay, somebody else is saying volume is way too low. Maybe I should just hold the thing. How's this? I'm just going to look at my preferences right now and see what it looks like. That looks better. I think maybe the issue is it's quite sensitive to the distance, this microphone. But anyway, I'll just do this for now. Seems better. Let's see. Will the new lower watt PT amps you're working on have MIDI for switching channels, if you can reveal that? That's an interesting question. We've sort of opted to maybe not do that on, I can talk about that a little bit. I don't know that everybody bonded with the MIDI thing on the PT100. I think it's great. It makes it really easy to, kind of program things like the boost state on my amplifier and stuff, but it's definitely an extra thing, and a typical foot switch on an amplifier where you can change between 2 channels or change between 3 channels. Nobody ever seems to complain about that. All the switchers these days seem to have some sort of relay switching built in, so you can program, things like channel switching when you're using a switcher, and so the MIDI seems maybe a little bit redundant. So in order to sort of, there's one big thing with amplifiers these days, I think, is you want to not have something that is way too expensive, and anything you can do to kind of add value, or with there's features that where people don't seem to be like, where it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. Maybe it's not resonating with them really. It might be a good thing to consider not having that, is what I'm getting at. So that's kind of what we've done, and I think we're just going to go with a typical sort of foot switch arrangement with an included foot switch, and it can be switched via relay switching and stuff like that. I think for most people, it doesn't seem like, to be honest, I don't think one person has ever brought it up to me, like the PT100 foot switch MIDI and how they think it's super cool. I think it's great. It's very functional, works great. I've never heard anybody complain about it either. But I've never heard anybody say, man, the MIDI is really awesome because I'm MIDI switching it with my rig. Not once. So I think maybe it's a good place that we're looking at in order to make the thing, maybe pass on some savings by not having that. Yeah, because that's a huge issue these days. It's hard to make gear in America, and I'll tell you what, with the tariffs and stuff like that are happening, those tariffs on Chinese stuff. Like it or not, man, like electronic production is not coming back to the United States. Like I'm talking capacitors and resistors and parts, all that shit is made overseas now. And, I don't sense that anybody's starting up to make that stuff again here. So the problem is with the tariffs and all that is that you're going to end up with the real world things. You're going to end up with, it's really difficult to make the gear for the same prices. So you got to look at every single place that you can kind of figure out a way to, pass some savings on to people, because people just don't want to pay so much for stuff anymore. It seems like it's a real concern. You got to have it really be competitive. Let's see here. Troy says, 2 p.m. in Michigan. I love your music. It's on my playlist. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Ron says, volume is too low, Pete. Usually it's 3 times as loud. Well, I'll give the other microphones a try next week. Adam says he can hardly hear me. Is it any better now, guys? Now that I'm holding the microphone right in front of my face? Because if it's not, I'll just pull it and use the typical microphone in the computer if you guys aren't digging it. It's kind of too late now. I can't really, go back. Let's go right to the end of the chat here, and somebody let me know if this seems okay right here. Let's see. So how's this sound if I'm holding the microphone right here? Somebody tell me. Is this loud enough? Or am I in trouble and I need to not use this particular setup? Hello, 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 hello. Somebody give me feedback on the microphone. I'll take a sip of my coffee from my delicious Guitar Wank mug. Volume just jumped up. Yes, sounds good now. So I got it right in front of my face. So somebody says I can totally hear using either setup. I guess it depends what you guys are listening on as well. So sounds huge now. Holding the mic's 100% better. The only drag is I wouldn't want to do this. Like, it'd be nice if it was down here. It seems sensitive to placement. Maybe it's this thing too. I don't really need that little windscreen. Maybe would help if I don't know. Probably not. But let me check the sound volume without. Yeah, it looks about the same with that or without it. Anyway, I'm just going to do this for the rest of today. Okay, I'm going to back up, get to a few more questions. Okay, Brexall says, do I use Superior Drummer at all? I haven't, actually, but I know it's great. I use Easy Drummer, too. I just got a new drum plugin that's called Get Good Drums, and it's, I think, Misha from Periphery, Horizon Devices, that fellow. He's got something to do with it. Downloaded it and installed it yesterday and got it set up. It seems really cool, too. Get Good Drums, you could search for that. You got to use Contact Player with it if anybody's familiar with that as a sample player. But the drum sounds sound pretty ferocious. Cymbals are really nice, really natural. So I'm going to mess with that a little bit. Bruno says, in my opinion, what makes a guitar good? I mean, it's just a combination of things. It's got to sound great. It's got to feel great in your hands and be something that you bond with, something that makes you want to play it and make music. Those are the most important things. Something that doesn't fight you too much and cause you unnecessary pain and stress because it's always out of tune or, Braxall says, I saw you soloing over Purple Rain. It sounded good. Did I even solo on that? I played at a jam at Guitar Summit last week with, Larry Mitchell, Phil X, and Stuart Ham on bass, and who else was playing? Of course, Uli John Roth, which was amazing. He was standing right beside me. I was like, wow, this guy's a legend. This is pretty cool. He was really sweet, and we ended up hanging out later till like 3 in the morning. And it was really fun. Me and Phil and Uli just, so many great stories, of course. Fascinating guy, Uli. Like, really still passionate about making music, and was talking about his plans for next year, what he's got going, And it's really cool to see how music keeps people focused and young and stuff. But he was very loud, and he told me that. I loved it. His tone was cool. He was using a Black Star amp, but it was like basically an old Plexi, I think. It had 4 inputs and a volume 1, volume 2. So I was like, oh, it's Plexi. And he had it set kind of loud and clean, and then his guitar's got a lot of fuzz and stuff in it, like crazy effects built in. Totally unique, crazy setup. But when I got up on stage to play Purple Rain, he was standing right beside me, and he leaned into my ear, and he said, my amp is very loud, like kind of like warning me. And I was like, I know, because I'd been watching him play earlier, but it sounded great. I mean, just right beside me, sounded killer. Let's see here. What else we got? Why are guitar signature models so expensive? That's coming from Medicine Man. Well, when you think about a signature model, generally it's a real custom kind of thing. It's usually pretty top shelf, like as far as, the person is. There's some signature models out there that aren't expensive, right? Like when we think about the Squier versions of the, I don't know, Jim Root Telecaster or something, right? Or the Epiphone version of Peter Frampton's 3 pickup Les Paul that I just saw that came out. They're probably fairly reasonably priced. So some guitar manufacturers do that. To be honest, my guitar is, so it's $34.99 retail in the States. Some people might be, that's incredibly expensive, but I went online and I tried to find a custom shop Fender that was that inexpensive, and I couldn't. Every custom shop, the cheapest custom shop stuff from Fender that I could find would be priced at like $37.99 or something, for your basic like starter kind of relic Strat or whatever they call them, Closet Classic and stuff. I could not find a custom shop Fender that was even, $250 more than my guitar starting. And that's not an artist guitar. So my guitar is made in California, and it's, it's a custom guitar. I think it's a great price for what it is, actually. Try and find a custom shop guitar made in California it's at least right in there with being competitive, because it's expensive to make stuff here now. It just is. Okay. Let's see. Where do we buy your guitars at? Well, like I say, I just saw a few in Europe coming into, like Peach Guitars had two. I think one of them was sold, but they still have the gold one. They brought in a black and a gold. In the States, like off the top of my head, Humbucker, they always seem to be bringing them in or stocking them. Humbucker Music. Yeah. Where else? I'm not sure if Session had one coming in or not. That's in Germany. I don't know what this question is. Charles is asking, what do you think about the Floyd Rose Railtail system for Strat replacement? Don't know what that is, but you've got me curious. I want to look into it now. Is my guitar coming in more colors? I would like to offer it in another color. I was sort of thinking it'd be real cool to have a candy apple red with the black back and black neck, and that'd be sharp. Or and maybe Inca silver, black back, black neck. What do you guys think? Silver or red? In the song Remember, there's an exquisite use of feedback. That's from Henrique. Are you achieving that with the freak out pedal, or are you hugging the speaker, so to speak? Yes, it was the freak out, because I actually did that solo here, sitting in this chair. So I used the freak out a lot for feedback on the album when I needed it, and it is really cool. It does if you set it just right with the right, like the freak out pedal, for those that don't know, is a Digitech pedal that causes feedback, and it's kind of interesting how they made it. They had an anti-feedback system that they developed because it's Harman Digitech, and they're a pro audio company, so they had an anti-feedback circuit in some of their pro audio, like PA oriented products that would target feedback and reduce it when it started. And they figured out if they inverted that algorithm that they would get feedback, of course. So that's kind of brilliant. And they put it in a guitar pedal. So it makes feedback, and you can kind of select the harmonics that feedback, and you can also select the volume, that whether it's just a real subtle in the background kind of feedback or whether it really gets loud and kind of takes over. And you can also select the ramp time, where it kind of comes in slowly and starts feeding back, or you can make it really instantaneous. You can even make the pedal, you can make it work momentary, so only when you step on it, the feedback starts, which is kind of how I use it. Or you can just turn it on all the time, so no matter what you play, it'll just grab that note and start feeding it back. And it's monophonic. It doesn't really work with chords, but if you play a chord, it'll target one of the notes in the chord, and it'll just start feeding back. Great pedal. Obviously incredibly useful if you're doing any kind of home studio recording or anything where you can't be in the room with a loudspeaker and getting real feedback. It just sort of solves a whole lot of problems. And I used it a lot, like on the song Remember, for sure, and also on, you heard on Life on Venus. I used it all over the record, actually. It's cool. Super cool. Try that creamback paired with a gold at Alnico. Yeah, I'm sure that's a good sound. I like the gold a lot, the Celestian Gold. It's kind of a sleeper speaker, really great speaker. Does your new pedal board still fit in the Friedman bag since adding the second tier shelf? Yes, it does. And will Dave be selling the shelf as an option? Yes, I believe he intends to, if he hasn't already. You should ask him just for availability and time on that. But yeah, I do think so. Which brand of 112? Let's see. Good 112s that are just kind of readily available. I like the little Bogner Cube, and I have a bunch of the Surs too with different various speakers, and they both sound good to me. The Bogner is rear loaded and the Sur is front loaded, so that will affect the sound a little bit, but it's just a matter of taste. I'd look into both of those. Okay. I've been dropping string gauges and I'm down to nines. Seems like I should be dropping pick gauge as well since tension is lower. Is that a thing? No, not really. No, I wouldn't say so. Although there's nothing wrong with experimenting with different kind of picks, but trying different picks because you change string gauge, I wouldn't consider that to be something that you have to do. Okay. Small 112 cabs, this is from Jason, can have a nice nasally upper mid response that sounds like rock and roll. I really like 112s. I mean, I cut the whole Guitar Nerd album with the little Bogner Cube, with mostly with a Scumback speaker in it. And that worked good for me. Buried in a closet, mic'd up, sounded cool. Yeah, it's just very direct and has a real like not phasey quality to it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just aggressive and cool, and plenty of low end. So let's see here. Audio definitely sounds fine here, says Lonnie. Can you teach us your part from Big Wreck? You Caught My Eye. What is the tuning? You mean when I played with them in God, what is the tuning? It's super low. It like might be C sharp or something with the whole guitar tuned down. I can't remember, dude. It might be drop C sharp, or maybe drop C. I remember having to put 11s on a guitar. I had a guitar specifically for that song. Oh yeah, you said cool song from the Sir Party. That is a great tune. But yeah, you got to just get really low. I want to say there's something else to it. If you did a Google search for it, it would probably pop up, like tuning on this particular song, and somebody's probably got it documented. Can I get a wider frequency response from a hi-fi 12AX7 or more highs? That's from Hadley. Well, they definitely do sound different. For example, JJ's I find sound quite dark, and then other certain tubes will sound quite open and brighter. Like for modern tubes, like the Tongue Soul was the one that had the most kind of chimey, open thing going on to me. And the JJ's can definitely sound like you've put a little bit of blanket over the speakers. So for sure, they vary. It's not a huge difference like some other things you can change in your rig. It's not like changing speakers or something, But they definitely. I did tests years ago where in front end, I think it was in my Top Hat and Plexidor or something, which is a pretty basic kind of straight up, tag board amp, but like old school Marshall style thing, and I recorded a whole bunch of 12AX7s and really listened to them. I think I did it in my SL68 too at one point. But I remember like listening to Amperex and Bugle Boys and Mullards and long plate Sovtex and then new JJ and new Chinese tubes, and I still kind of have a memory of what it all. My favorite tube is the Bugle Boys, the Amperex. Those tubes always just sound like killer to me, just everything I want, even over Mullards. But this stuff is subtle, like you can get, if you get 3 great tested newer high gain Chinese preamp tubes, especially in Marshall circuits and stuff, it sounds good to me, The JJs are, I have just kind of an issue with the little blanket over the speakers thing, but they're one of the only tubes that seems to be somewhat reliable these days. That's not super, like a lot of the Chinese ones, they kind of microphonic or hissy and noisy, and that's an issue. So it's difficult for tubes these days. You've used the timeline for so long, says Alex B. How are you finding the DD500? Any comparisons on relative strengths of each? The timeline's great. I thought it was a great delay, and I had no problems with it. It gets some really, really cool sounds. When I put the DD500 on, this isn't a reflection on the timeline, but I actively started to kind of maybe cut a little less high end in my delay sound than I used to, Because what I noticed is I'd walk out front, especially in arenas and stuff, and I couldn't really hear the delay when I wanted a loud delay sound. Even when it was mixed quite loud, and in my in-ears it sounded sort of present, the delays out front were it was just murky in the house. You know, if you wanted like an edge like dotted eighth thing or something that was really rhythmic and kind of apparent, I wasn't really hearing the delay. It was kind of weird. And so basically, I just think that, that was more a reflection on me actively tuning the delay in the boss to be a little bit more present. Now, one of the things I also did was, it's got some great features as far as EQ goes, so you can really like filter out lows, filter out top if you want to, make it dark, and sort of boot like I think there's even mids, like it's like sort of like having a 3-band EQ, so you can really make the mids resonate in the delay. You can kind of hear it in that video that I did recently in my rig rundown with the delay tails, where I let it ring out, and you can hear how I kind of really filter delays sometimes and stuff to make them really stand out and be different than the core guitar tone. So I like those features in the DD500, and I'm digging it. Let's see here. Justin says, thanks for the inspiration. He bought a Standard Pro. That's super cool. Great guitars. Sur Pro Series is awesome. Henrique says, I enabled this super chat thing. I don't know if you guys will use this or not, but Henrique says, a dollar button, cool. It's like a thing where I guess if you want your message to pop right to the front, you pay a nominal fee, and I can see them easier. I'm definitely not asking you guys to do that, but I turned it on anyway to see if anybody likes it. I try and get to all the questions anyway. And sometimes I do miss things because the chat just kind of goes flying by or whatever. So I thought, I don't know, if anybody's got a specific thing they really want to ask me, it'll make it easier. Okay, moving up a little bit in the chat. Which brand of speaker and cab for a 112? Well, I was saying, the Surs and the Bogner are ones I have experience with as far as the cab. As far as the brand of speaker, in a 112 you're a little bit limited because you're stuck with kind of only that one speaker for the power handling. So you might need something that is at least a 50, if not a 65 or 75 or 100 watt speaker at minimum, in order to kind of take the amount of power your amp puts out. So for example, if you like a greenback tone, you're going to be kind of like at the minimum. I would suggest using a if it's in the Celestion family, you're going to want the Creamback 65, I guess, or Creamback H75 would probably be my choice for a 112 if that was kind of the only cabinet I was going to have. And even that wouldn't really work with my amp, which is 100 watts. I'd be sort of afraid to use a PT100 into that little cabinet unless I had the master quite low. So this is a good thing to be aware of. Scumbag has some nice options as well. And so does Celestion for 100 watts. They've got a new 100 or 150 watt speaker that I heard at their place that sounded quite good. Scumbag, he offers all his models with different power ratings. You can get the original 25 watt Greenback, for example, or a 65 watt rating or a 100 watt rating. It kind of beefs them up, which will marginally change the sound, but just something to be aware of. Let's see here. Mike Johnson is speaking to me in hiragana, and so he says, Koni to, Koni do I, ha. Did I get it, Mike? Koni doi ha. Am I saying that right? It's been a minute since I've read hiragana, which is one of the 3 Japanese alphabets. How picky are you about nut width? I can't seem to distinguish between 1.650 and 1.68. Some people act like it's life and death. I think the thing with nut width is they used to be really all over the map. Like you used to have 1 5/8, and then some guitars, like I can remember Kramer's with 1 3/4. That was huge. Or like the George Lynch ESP, I think, had that big 1 3/4 width. If I'm not mistaken. Those widths were massive, but these sort of the smaller widths I wouldn't notice as much. I don't think. I don't play guitars that have that big, where you get a guitar with a 1 3/4 width knot on it. You don't see that anymore. So to me, those really made a difference. But 1.65 and 1 5/8, I think that's similar, isn't it? Strato says audio's low over his phone. Sorry, I am right on this thing, as close as I can be. So I'll try some of the other microphones next week. Either the Samson, I've got a Samson large diaphragm podcast kind of USB mic, and also an Audio-Technica 2020, which is a similar thing. So I'm going to try them both. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Gray the Cat says, Pete, did you get tempted again by the vintage guitar shops in Japan? Yes, I did. A little bit. The main guitar that I was sort of looking at over there, that if I would have got one, I was thinking about was like a 61 or 62 or 60. No, maybe it was like 63 or 64 SG, which are kind of like real, I feel like super cool guitars that are still, solidly early 60s kind of, vintage Gibson with the right pickups and the whole 9 yards are really cool. And those 63 or 64, they can have this really cool wide, slightly like, I don't want to say thin, but, kind of a wide fingerboard, kind of flat fingerboard and real comfortable neck. So I was looking at, when you get to 65, they tend to get real narrow all of a sudden, the necks, and then I'm not interested anymore. But that kind of like slightly wider fingerboard, and it's just a real playable guitar. So that was the one guitar that I was kind of looking at over there. But they're expensive. I mean, I'm talking like, it's like 11 grand or something for one of those guitars. Really cool guitars, but, and I've just kind of got other priorities right now. So I resisted. One of the things I'm going to do is actually build a studio. So I haven't talked about that at all, but I'm actually building a new room pretty quick here. So I've been working a lot here, as you guys know, and you see me do videos and stuff, and I like it here because, at home I got windows and stuff, and it's bright, and it's real nice. But I decided that I still need a room, and that I want it to be right, and I'm just kind of tired of, it's a little bit like semi-pro what I'm doing here, just as far as the layout. It's not, like I don't have everything that I want really. So I want to build a really cool new space. So that was a good thing I didn't spend that money on a guitar. I think it's much more important for me to put it into a workable room. Let's see here. Alan says, pay your favorite musicians. He's trying the super chat thing. Thanks, Alan. Yeah, it's definitely a cool thing, if people are willing to support the arts, and I always appreciate it. A lot of people that queued up after the clinics for the last week that I was over in Europe, and they bought CDs, and they were real happy to plunk down €10 or £10 or whatever for a CD, and I just think that's awesome. People are still willing to support music out there. It's really cool. Ben Van Gast says, hey Pete, rebiasing SL67 when replacing valves. You definitely want to do that. You definitely want to rebias on an SL67. But the one thing is, you could contact the factory and see if it's possible to purchase a set of tubes that have the same rating written on the top of the tube. So there's a number on the base of the tubes of your SL67. There's also a number on the top of the tubes. So that's some measurements that they take at the factory. And if you get if you could get a set of tubes that had those exact same numbers, you'd be able to pop them in safely without rebiasing. So it's a good thing to know about your Sur amps. I don't know if they publicize that or if it's a thing that actively let people know, but that's true. So you might want to contact either your dealer about that and ask them if they can get in touch with the factory, give them the numbers, and see, or just get a set of tubes that's tested, matched, and you take it to your tech and have them bias it, which is almost just as easy as going through all that stuff I just said, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Glenn says, thoughts on the Cerbella in the 22 watt setting. I like it. It's just a little lower headroom, and I kind of actually prefer the tone of the amp on the 44 watt setting. But it's useful in the low power setting. It's a different sound, but I like the kind of punchy full headroom thing. Will PT2 ever be available on vinyl, says JJ. I would like to do that at some point. I think it would be cool, actually. I'd like to have both my albums on vinyl and put them out as a special thing or something. Just maybe do up 100 of each or something, and make them available on the website or something. Okay. Mike now says konnichiwa in hiragana. I can read that. Love your live shows, says Preben. Thank you. And have you tested the Sir Alexa chorus? Yes, I did a little video of it. I have a song that I did with it on the YouTubes, if you want to hear it. It's really good. I use it in my clinic, actually, and kind of demonstrate it. It's a great chorus. Kevin Sir had a lot to do with the design of that pedal, and he really went to great lengths to figure out a way to give that thing headroom. You might notice with analog choruses, many times you turn them on and they add distortion. It's a drag. But the chips, the same ones they used to use back in the 70s and stuff, they don't even make them anymore. So he had to find a way to kind of like make sure that, to sort of build headroom into the pedal by dropping gain and then building gain back up after, and figure out a way to, I don't know exactly what he did, but using modern chips, he was able to make a chorus that actually has headroom, doesn't cause, I hate that when you turn on a chorus, because generally many times with chorus I want a beautiful clean sound. You start playing through it and there's like distortion. And like, where's the distortion coming from? And then you turn the chorus off and it goes away. It's like, oh, the pedal is doing it. It's a headroom problem with modern chips, analog chips. Let's see here. Mike says, I meant to say good afternoon, konnichiwa. I sent a correction. Thanks, Mike. I love getting the hiragana, by the way. It's good practice. Kind of puts me in the spot to have to read it on, like, live on the spot. And makes it. It's the hardest thing with learning a new language, I find, is like when you're working like on your own and kind of working on exercises and things. It's very comfortable and you can kind of pick your way through, reading and through words and phrases. But when you're on the spot in a situation where you actually have to read quickly, or you have to remember something to say quickly, a phrase, that's when it really all falls apart sometimes. Rhett Schultz says, what's up, Pete? Hi, Rhett. How's it going? Good to see you. Where can we buy the bridge, says Braxall. I think that I'm not really sure about that. I think that it's a good question for, give it like another 30 days or something. Let's see if, like I say, Trev was going to ship a bunch to Sir and stuff. Maybe they can make it available. I'm not sure if they're planning on doing that. I don't want to speak out of turn because that's up to them. Or it's going to be something that you buy direct from Wilkinson or one of their distributors, like Stu Mac or something. I don't know. So I don't really know the answer to that. But if we are going to, if it all works out and we're going to put it on my guitars, and I think the plan was to maybe offer it as an upgrade somehow for people that would be interested in that. And it's not going to be real expensive, I don't think. The figure like $100 was kind of batted around from what I remember. I'm totally speaking out of turn because I don't know that that's what it would be, but I did hear that, like somewhere in that vicinity. So on your new CD, did you record all the guitars direct or mic'd? I did both. I used both the UA aux, the Sir Reactive Load, used both those things a lot. I even used some plugins and some modelers for some stuff, and then I also mic'd up cabinets, old school, so I kind of did everything. Have you had a chance to try the new H&K Black Spirit 200 amp? No, is that the little guy? The little analog recording amp that I've seen that they came up with? I saw it at the show, but I haven't tried it. I was interested because I want to know what's out there these days for sort of competition when it comes to little amps and stuff like that. Nirav says, I have a set of Thornbuckers and a PRS Santana SC, and it sounds amazing. Have you ever visited India and any plans to do a clinic here? I'd love to come there and do a clinic. Never been. Seems like a great place, and I know there's a lot of interesting guitar over there, so it seems like a natural place for me to go. I'd love to visit sometime. If there's a Sir dealer there, tell him to bring me over. Aaron says, "Hey Rhett, loved your new pedal board. I think I just saw a video where Rhett made a new dream pedal board. It popped up in my feed. My feed. Yep. Let's see here. We got 233 people online. That's awesome. Most I've had in a while. Sean says the PT plugin is ridiculously good. That's the new PT100 plugin we did in conjunction with Brainworks and UA. Inspiring to play through, especially with Thornbuckers in an Epiphone Dot. Thanks for collaborating on great products. I love the thing. I many times, like just before I went to Europe, I was just leaving my guitar on my chair, plugged into my UA interface, and I had the plugin up. And anytime, with a tube amp, you don't want to like leave it on all day, but I would just leave it there, and I just walk by and pick up my guitar, and I could just start playing, and it sounded killer. Like, I don't know, it's great. If you guys have a chance, give it a try. It really is like pretty awesome, I think, and a great solution if you can't use an amp and you want to do some recording or just jamming. I know it's kind of, you have to have a UA interface and stuff. That is true, but for those folks out there that have one, it's a great thing. Okay. JD says he's in Venezuela. Nice to see you. Good to speak with you. Hope everything's okay down there. I know it's a tumultuous place these days. Hope you're doing good. Any idea how long the Tesla valves last on an SL67 when playing about 6 hours a week with the amp on 7 or 8 with a SIR reactive load? That's working the amp pretty good. I would say that you would want to check maybe every 6 months or something like that and see how your tubes are. And they can still work like fine and not be giving in, but they can be pretty out of whack. Like I had actually the amp that I've got here, which is the custom audio PT100 that we used as the prototype for the newest SIR PT100. So it's got it's just basically a SIR PT100 in a custom audio labeled box. I'd used it a lot for recording. I used it a lot on the new record and stuff, and then I took it in to SIR, and because I was like, I think I got it was starting to hum a little bit. And Chris at SIR looked at the tubes and said, "Man, these tubes are shot. Like, they're, it's supposed to be biasing at whatever 35 milliamps or something, and they're down to like 16 or whatever. They were just so far out of spec." And I was like, "Oh, great! I finished the whole record with those, But so who knows how long it's been like that for? So it's a good thing to look and make sure, because your amp might not be all that it can be if it's and once again on your SL67 you can. Look at the numbers on the top of the tubes and on the base, and possibly contact SIR and see if you can get it. Have maybe a couple sets on hand so that you can always pop in a new set and just listen. If they're biased the same, or if the bias is the same, you don't have to rebias the amp. You can quickly switch them in and out and just take a listen to the tone. Okay. Are the new amps like the Rev amps? I don't know what that means exactly. Like in what way? My new amp, you mean? What single coils do you recommend with a Thornbucker for an HSS Strat style guitar? Well, the V60 LPs will work great. That's what I use in mine. My other favorite sort of single coil is, I think they're calling them a V63 now, formerly the ML Classics. So I think they're really cool. A little bit different sound, like I think they're a little bit hotter than the V60 LP, and the resonant peak is probably different. I don't know. I've got in my old Strat, that's an ML Classic, which would be the V63. And then in my other guitars, I have V60 LPs and everything. So if you listen to a few of the different videos I've done, you can kind of listen. Chris D says less complex is better. I think you're probably asking about or commenting on the amp thing, like the MIDI amp thing. And I tend to, for the most part, agree with you, just as far as, most folks seem to like simplicity in amps these days, and that's definitely the direction. Although, my new amps are going to have some really, really cool features, but other things that we've done in the past where maybe people aren't, using the feature or commenting on it that much, where you just don't hear it, like, it's like, why have it there if people don't seem to care, right? That's kind of my mind. And people use pedals so much these days to change the sound of the amplifier. It's like, I think what people want out of an amp these days is just a good, awesome sort of core building block tones. And then beyond that, they're getting their sounds with different pedals and stuff like that, and hopefully the controls on the guitar. So, building tons of bells and whistles into amps when it comes to, it's not really my thing. I like a little bit of flexibility, like a bright switch or, something like that. But too many different voicing things, as well as maybe the MIDI thing. I mean, I love it on the PT100. It's so dialed into my touring rig. And, I use the MIDI on it. But like I say, I've never heard one person actually bring it up. It's like, yeah, man, I love that it's MIDI. It just has never happened. So it doesn't seem to be the thing that resonates with people. I just don't think so. Not in my experience. Let's see here. What kind of sound reduction do you have? Sound reduction? Like you mean my studio or something? That's from Troy. Sorry, Troy, I'm not sure about the question. Could we hear you play acoustic guitar? I was kind of not really set up for that right now, but I would be actually if I had the little podcast mic. That would probably be, work perfectly for actually playing acoustic guitar in this kind of setting. The large diaphragm style. So I'll try that next week. Are you thinking of upgrading to the new Apollo X? No, that's from Rhett. I don't think so, man, because I think I just got an Apollo 8P, so I've got that, and you know how it is. You get a piece of gear, and then they make the new one, right? But I'm totally stoked with my Apollo 8P, and I haven't even used it that much, really, because it's in my main studio space, and I've been mostly working here, so where I'm still using an old first-generation Apollo Twin, which is great. I got a UAD2 satellite, so I can run more plugins and stuff like that here, and I sort of, it works. I have no desire to upgrade, really, at this point. Preben says it's still very low, like the sound. I don't know. Other people are saying it sounds great. So it's like I got comments kind of all over the map right now on that. I have to watch the video later because I have no way of hearing the input when I'm doing this. So I'll check out the video later. But yeah, next week I think I'll give it a try with the the different microphone, either the Audio-Technica or the Samson that has the large diaphragm style. Okay, Lonnie says I don't have a PT100, unfortunately, but love the MIDI on the Hedgehog. That said, totally understand and agree with your point regarding affordability. I believe the Hedgehog is kind of a misunderstood amplifier in some ways. And if you have one and you learn how to use it, it's extremely powerful. In the demo video I did for the Sir Hedgehog, I tried to set up 4 sounds. Okay, it's got this foot switch, right? And you can basically make 4 presets, but it's not a digital amplifier or something. All it is the Hedgehog is a very, very simple amplifier that has a bright switch, a deep switch that has 2 settings, a mid-boost switch, and an overdrive circuit in it. That's not really like a second channel. It's really like a Dumble style thing where you're adding an overdrive circuit to the tone. Now, all of those settings on the switches for the mid, the deep, the bright, the boost, there's a boost too, and the overdrive, you can store the switch state for any of those things. And you can radically kind of switch up the tone of the amplifier by using those switches. So you've basically got 4 settings on the foot switch for the Hedgehog. And you can go anywhere from, the way I kind of set up mine in the video that I did was the sort of straight up clean, bright, jangly tone, really beautiful kind of American clean, then more pushed version of that. I think I had the boost in and the bright off maybe. And then more of like a rhythm kind of overdrive sound, and then a full-on lead tone, just across 4 buttons on the foot switch. And that's all through storing different switch states on the front of the Hedgehog. And you have to kind of keep in mind the Hedgehog is an all-tube analog, very sort of hot rod American style amplifier that has these tone switches in it that you can store the states of and sort of have 4 different presets. But there's nothing digital about the amplifier. The only way that you're storing that stuff through MIDI. And it's incredibly easy to use, but I think it was somewhat maybe confusing for people or something with that amp. Well, if you get one and it's your kind of thing, it's a really incredible sounding amplifier. I've often thought that if I played again with maybe Melissa Etheridge or Don Henley or something, that I would actually use the Hedgehog maybe for those gigs, because for those types of tones, that rootsy American, more like, what that smooth kind of drive thing, not very British. Much more of that type of tone. Think, Hot Rod American or Dumble or something. Um, I would give the Hedgehog a try for those gigs. So, but yeah, anytime you talk about presets or storing things, it scares some people off, I think, with amplifiers. There is that element that you can always fight against. Um, with the way you have your H9s and Boss DD500, they're not in the loops, correct? So do you have them set in bypass mode? This is from JJ. He says he's new to MIDI. And do you ever use the pre and post modes of the H9? I don't on the H9. My H9s, as well as my DD500, they're all in the effects loop of the amplifier, or post preamp. So I'm never using the pre-post mode of the H9. I did do that for a little while with the Strymon Mobius, but I'm not doing it on my current pedal board. It's kind of cool. Like if you've got a Strymon Mobius, you can use it, if you wire it the right way, instead of running it with 2 stereo inputs and 2 stereo outputs, you can use those as 2 sets of ins and outs. So what you can do is patch it in pre some of your gain effects, and then you can also use it post some gain effects. So if you want to use the Mobius on certain sounds to be like a filter, like a wah or touch wah, or maybe univibe style sounds, those would work good pre-distortion. Or you could use it post-distortion on certain presets to use it for flanging and chorusing and stuff like that. Some sounds, modulation type sounds that might sound better coming after distortion. So you can do the same thing on an H9. You sacrifice the stereo capability then, though, because you're using the ins and outs as 2 sets of ins and outs instead of stereo in, stereo out. So the way I use H9s is because I've got all that other stuff up front. I don't really need to use an H9 for any kind of stuff that I would use pre-distortion, because I've already got a full pedal board worth of stuff that I can do it with. If that makes sense. And yeah, so no, they're not in the loops. And you're asking, do I have them in bypass modes? Yeah, certain presets I can just have the pedal kind of bypassed, right? Not in line. Both the DDs and the H9s can just be not on, and then the signal's just passing through them. I've got, I think, one of my H9s is in a true bypass state, and the other one is in buffered bypass, and the DD500 is a buffered bypass. So then you get delay trails coming out of them. If you change presets and you turn off the thing, the delay will trail off if you've turned off the unit. Metallic says, hey Pete, do you like metal guitars shapes like the V Explorer ML? Yes, I love it. I really want a flying V, actually. As one guitar, I see these Gibson custom shop Vs sometimes, and there'll be like a black one with gold hardware, or some. I've seen red ones with custom shop. It's sort of like the old school V, like a 67 style V, but red with the white pickguard and stuff. And I love those guitars. I love Carina ones too. Love it. Well, it's not really metal, but old flying Vs and stuff. I totally love those guitars. I have an Explorer. You just haven't seen me play it for a long time. It's had no strings on it for like 5 years, which is stupid. I have to put a set of strings on to get it set up. It had kind of hot pickups in it, and I didn't really like the tone. So I want to try a more bright kind of, open, because the guitar is all mahogany Explorer, just a black one, kind of straight up USA Explorer. So I need to find the right set of pickups for it. But it's a cool guitar. I used to play it with Chris Cornell on a lot of Soundgarden stuff. I used it on Let Me Drown and like all kinds of stuff. It was a cool guitar. Really big, wide, fat neck on it. It was cool. I think the PRS Tremonti will be a hit just because it's in the right price range. Have you played one? Are you talking about an amplifier? I haven't played one. I talked to Mark about it at NAMM, actually, when it came out. I saw him. He's such a nice guy, Mark Tremonti. If you guys have ever met him before, you get a chance. He's just a really, really sweet person, and I have a lot of respect for him, both as a guitar player and as a guy, because he's just a really, really nice person. But he's also managed to, he rode that Creed wave And I think those guys took a lot of shit kind of after a while, and then he went and just kept going and doing his thing, and obviously like practicing guitar and getting, always wanting to do it. He strikes me as a really genuine. He just tries hard, uh, and he's always being creative and being a positive kind of force out there playing guitar and learning. So I like him a lot. I think he's cool. So I would like to try his amp actually and see, the little lunchbox one looks really cool. So let's see here. Not going to be at GetCon, says Rhett. Hopefully next time. I hope so, my friend. Please do. Please come out. It's a good time. Okay. I must be way, way down in the chat because everybody's talking about the volume now, so I bet I'm 20 minutes behind on answering questions and stuff. I better move it along. Let's see here. Yeah, everybody's commenting on the mic here, so I'm just trying to get to the next kind of gear. Oop, and it slipped around in the chat. Chat is really difficult to use. So the super chat thing is actually cool if you want to absolutely see what you're saying, because I'm not trying to be a salesman, but it's a difficult thing to if there's 200 or so people online, everybody's commenting, and then the stupid thing slips, and then I got to page way back and try and find out where I am. I know I'm always bitching about it, but it drives me crazy. Okay, I'm just going to start here from where I was talking about when people were asking about the color on the guitar, and I'm seeing comments about that here in the questions. So Adam says, Adam was talking about the price. We're talking about the price of custom guitars here, so I'll get into that just here in a second. Somebody's asking me Helix or Helix LT. Go. I would say the Helix. I think I'd like the scribble strips. It's important to me. I need to be able to see what the effects are and stuff. So I would opt for the full-on model. What do I think of a 335? I've been wanting to try one. I love 335s. It's the one guitar that a lot of people comment about when I play that thing in demo videos or whatever. People are like, damn, the 335's back. They love the tone of it, and even on a YouTube video seems to resonate with people. No pun intended, but it has an impact sonically that people seem to really dig. I love 335s. The way they feed back is cool to me. I love the air. They're really fun to play live because you can feel the air pumping out of the body when they're like feeding back and stuff. It's just cool, man. They're fun to play. Literally, like coming out of the F hole, you feel the air coming out. It's really neat. At a loud volume. Let's see. How long does Sir take to build your guitar? That's a good question. It takes a minute because of the finishing process and stuff. Probably once they start on one, it's probably a kind of a couple 3 weeks, like going through the whole process because they got to let them, once when they're painting and sanding and stuff like that, that's kind of the longest process, I think, where it takes a minute. They got to let it sit for half a week or a week and that kind of thing before they get back to it, and then they start buffing and stuff. So, but I don't really know. It's a good question. From day one until I finish guitar, I'm not sure exactly how long it takes. Several PT signature guitars are listed on Reverb, says Christy, if anybody's looking for one. Somebody was asking where they can get one. Looks like a lot of people are saying red is a cool idea. Preben says, I'll try again. Have you tested or tried the Sir Alexa Chorus? I did answer that. But yes, I have a video on the Alexa. I did it with Ariana Powell. We wrote a tune together in like 2 hours and then tracked it with sort of a bunch of different settings. So that's on my YouTube channel. And then I'm also using it a lot in my new clinic, the Sir clinics I just did. People saw me using the Alexa, and I was talking about using it and setting it up for 2 different speed settings, kind of a fast rotary thing, and then a more slow, sort of subtle. It's cool. And I also already talked about the headroom thing, so I don't want to be redundant, but it's got a ton of headroom, and it was designed by Kevin Sir to not distort and have a great have a great tone even out of modern analog chips, which is tough. John Les Paul says he's rebuilding a Strat with Thornbuckers. Will any 5-way switch be sufficient? I think so. Um, if you do the standard kind of switch, it's a good question how what switch the Sur guys use. I don't think they use anything that's out of the ordinary for a 5-way in order to get the different settings. Uh, let's see here. Oh, one person says silver for the guitar. I saw a Sur Inca Silver Modern in Japan, and it kind of made me think silver. That'd be nice on my guitar. Candy Apple Red's a no-brainer, though, right? Always cool. Let's see. What's my favorite track from Van Halen 1? Maybe On Fire, because it's on fire. Absolutely. I love that tune. Justin says he bought a Standard Pro because of me. Oh, and you mentioned that in the other chat as well, the super chat. What strings do I prefer? Well, okay. So with strings, I've been a long time Ernie Ball user, and Ernie Ball's been awesome to me, and I've got nothing but good things to say about the strings. I have been experimenting with a 9.5 gauge, which is only available, as far as I know, from one company. Actually, GHS might make it one too, I think. But I was having a little bit of an issue over in Japan with humidity and sweat, and the strings feeling like cables to me that were just like, ugh, and I didn't know if it was me getting weak or. I heard after this that Paul Gilbert evidently goes down a gauge when, or up a gauge, so from 10s to 9s or something when the humidity is really high. So maybe it's not me and I'm not crazy, but so I went to a 9.5 to 44, which is a Diodario string, and I'm trying them just because I literally couldn't deal with 10s. I was having a really hard time kind of with the gauge and feeling like I had any kind of fluidity or whatever. It's actually kind of troubling me because I was like, what's wrong with my hands? But then I heard that this isn't an uncommon thing. So yeah, I'm trying these 9.5s, and the reality is I love them. So we'll see. I'm contemplating what to do about the whole thing because on one hand, I'm really loyal Ernie Ball guy. They've been great to me, but I've always really liked Diodario as well. Am I saying that right? I feel like I screw up how I say Diodario. Like I'm not pronouncing it right, and I should know that at this point in my life. But yeah, I really like their products and their strings. They're obviously a really cool company and make a ton of great stuff. So just been kind of experimenting with the 9.5 to 44 gauge. Adam says he's been wanting to try the Freakout. Yeah, it's cool, man. One of the most. That's why I've got it there on my pedal board, right down at the bottom, because I can just stand on it and get something, live. You see, actually, a pretty good demo of it, I think, is in my gear rundown that I did recently, where I show exactly why it's cool. You can just get really expressive with it easily. My thoughts on roasted wood. I think it's cool. I've got back when Sur originally started messing with it, I've got a really roasted modern, and the neck is almost like charcoalified. It's really, so they don't do it that much anymore. But I will say that guitar, the neck is stable. Like you never have to adjust the truss rod. I can not pick it up for a year and then pick it up and play it, and it's like, man, it still feels like it's set up really good. So yeah, I think there's something to it. Also, my white Sur Classic S that you see me play sometimes. That guitar has a roasted body and neck, and it sounds great. So I think there's something to it. Mainly it's a stability thing, I think. It just seems to make the wood it makes it more predictable, I think. So things like truss rod adjustments maybe don't need to happen as much. Have I tried Dunlop Flow picks? No, but I think I have some here to try that they sent me. It's one of those things I got to get to. Have I tried the new John Petrucci red picks? No, I might have some of those too. They sent me a bunch. I'm pretty tight with those Dunlop guys. They sent me a bunch of stuff to try. Let's see. The Line 6 DT 112 is sweet. I think it's Bogner design, bass ported, and very affordable. Have never tried it. Maybe it's similar to his other, typical 112 cube. Thoughts on 112 open or close back? Well, typically what you would think. The close back is great for more martial British chunky rock tone, and the open back's great for airy. It's a cool thing to consider on a stage like that. The open back will give you a nice spread and kind of a dimensional thing that you just can't get out of a closed back cabinet. The drummer can hear it from behind. You know, if you're in a club or something, they've got there's something to be said for open back cabs. There's a time and place for both open backs and closed back. Fender amps for rock, Vibe X10's not going to happen. I mean, some great rock and roll has been made on Fender amps. Tweeds, you know, Hotel California, man. Neil Young, you know, it's a thing. And then, not to mention Social D, right? Like, doesn't what's his name use? What's his name? That's terrible. Remind me from Social D. He plays a bassman into a 412 forever with the gold top Les Paul. That's his rig. It's a bassman into a closed back 412 is basically sounds like a Marshall. Like I have that 66 bassman. It's great rock and roll. I mean, it's not real dirty, but turn that thing up and, you know, turn the bass way down, and, you know, you can bright on or off, cool either way. And then with the treble up, crank it up to 6 or 7, and it's rocking. It's a pretty cool tone in a JTM 45 kind of way. But yeah, it's a neat sound. Which model of Scumbag speaker? I am looking them up, says Brexall. He makes 100 watts in basically everything he does. So you can get M-style magnets, H-style magnets, the J, which is like a kind of a hybrid, and you can get 100-watt versions of, you know, it's whatever you gravitate towards. More greenbacks, more H30 type. Andy says, great to meet you on Thursday. Asked you about strings. Are you trying 9.5s on Gibson scales too? Not yet. I've only tried it on my... no, that's not true. I did try on my Leo Scala, which I like. My Leo Scala Underdog. So I'm going to experiment more with it. Jury's still out, but yeah. Have I watched the Andy Timmons Mesa Fillmore 50 videos? Hard to know if it's a great amp. Andy makes everything sound great. The old, you know, good players make everything sound great. It's an argument that sort of bugs me, but you're absolutely right. In this case, definitely with Andy. That guy couldn't sound bad if he tried. He's one of the best guitar players I've ever heard. He's amazing. What do I think of the Rat Pedal Pro? Never tried it. Honestly. Will I be demoing the new H&K Black Spirit 200 amp? You know, I don't really do amp demos. And part of the reason is because I'm a SUR guy with amps, and I've got a signature custom amplifier. So that's why I make sometimes vintage amp videos, you know, where it's more the Marshalls or the Fenders, the kind of amps in the zone videos. I've got my Vox because it's so different than anything that SUR makes. You know, an AC 15 or 30 is a totally different sound. So I need to get that sound sometimes as a sound I love. But one thing I don't really do much of is videos with other amps. So it's mainly, that's why you'll see on my channel, mainly pedal videos or other gear that's sort of not amplifier related modelers and stuff. Which you kind of delve into amp territory, but it's a different enough thing that I don't think there's a lot of crossover. Please put the windscreen back on, Michael says. It's popping a ton without. Really? Shall I try it? Where is it? Here it is. Hello, and welcome to almost the end of my live stream. I have to go soon. It's, well, been doing it at 1:18, so I'll go another 10, 12 minutes, something like that. So it's an hour and a half, but I got to split in. Any thoughts on the Eminence Cannabis Rex? I have heard that speaker. It's a good speaker. In a 412 cabinet. It's kind of V30-ish, right? As far as I know. It's kind of like the Eminence V30 alternatives. If you like V30s, it's probably worth giving it a listen. Let's see here. Corey Duke says he just got a Sir JM Pro in gold and an Alt T Pro in Sonic Blue. Man, you got a lot of new guitars. They're about perfect in every way. That's awesome. Sonic Blue Alt T, that would be cool. I have one of the red ones. It's cool. Got some new old stock Germany for your tubes, says Mike Johnson. I have a guy. Hey, man, hit me up. Let me know. Always like to have a few of those around. My SL68, which is sitting right back there, has Teslas in it, old ones, 70s, Teslas and some cool new old stock stuff in the preamp stuff. I love it. That stuff's still fun for me, like trying out those tubes. Best small tube amp for the money, under 20 watts. Well, just hold on. I'll have news soon. What model of Scumbag speaker, said Brexall again? Already answered that. What's my take on performance rights on covers? Is it getting harder to do covers? Personally, I prefer originals. That's from Dave Bryan. It depends what you mean by doing covers. It seems like on YouTube, if what you're doing is like just putting out a video of you playing a cover song or something, they've taken a real, like, if you can't beat them, join them approach. And if you monetize it now, that you'll just get a message on your YouTube channel that tells you this video includes copyrighted content, but don't worry, you don't have to do anything. It's fine, and the original copyright owner will get a piece of the, whatever you make for your Google AdSense off your videos, which is smart, I think, because it's like, hey, somebody's playing a cover of your song. It's just helping spread the music and keeping your song out there and in front of people, and there's a few dollars to be made. So that was always seemed to be a more, the way that they've gone with it seems to make sense. Now, there's certain older artists that they don't want to have anything to do with, many people covering their songs. You have to get the rights. I'll give you an example. Prince is one of them, I think. He's pretty hardcore. And I don't know if the Prince camp now that he's passed away is still the way that it used to be, but, he used to be pretty militant about not letting, for example, YouTube videos or things like that with his music on it sort of get out there. So I guess it just depends, Do you like Bryan Adams? I think Bryan Adams is amazing. His Instagram is great, by the way. If you don't follow him, follow him. He's a really cool photographer, but also beyond that, he's always putting up little videos of him just jamming on acoustic guitar and stuff and writing and singing. He's really inspiring. Obviously been around for, well over 30 years now, and he's still like this vibrant, youthful dude. And he sings his ass off and writes great songs. I think he's super cool. My friend Saul actually plays bass with him now, and he was saying Keith Scott likes your videos, which to me was like the coolest thing ever, because I've listened to Keith Scott since I was a little kid, and he's like the Canadian Mike Campbell, I always used to say. He always plays the right thing. So he's like, oh, he wants to get together with you sometime. So he lives down here somewhere in California. So I was like, let's go for lunch. I want to meet Keith Scott. That'd be amazing. Let's see. How was your visit to the Toman shop? Was it awesome? That was a unbelievable place. Toman's another I forgot to mention earlier, but Toman's they're almost like the Sweetwater of Europe, I guess. And a really, really incredible facility that it's like mind-blowing, like this huge musical instrument complex that just goes on and on and on. And of course, because they're doing a lot of shipping of stuff and all that, and as well as they have a store on site. Beautiful around there too, that part of Germany, Bavaria, I guess. Driving around was really, really amazing. Preston says, would have been here earlier, but just noticed Laurie Basilio just put out a new video. Hey man, I would have not listened to my live stream if I could have watched her play guitar and listened to. She's incredible. She's so rad. And she's my neighbor. I need a pop filter. Okay, I put it on, so hopefully you're not getting as many P's, explosive P's. Does this sound better like this, or poop, poop, poop? Is that bad? I bet that sucked for you. Okay, how about now? Poop, poop, poop. Is that better? I'm doing a little microphone demo right now with the importance of pop filters. Sorry, I'm going a little crazy right now. Bonjour, Mr. Pete, says Arnaud. Have you played with active pickups? I have one instrument here with active pickups. It's a bass with EMGs, and it sounds amazing. But that's about it. Aaron says, the mic sounds crystal clear and plenty loud now that you're holding it. Just need a mini mic stand. Yeah, I don't have anything here that I can really put it on. I was going to show you guys something before I go. I'm going to keep answering a few more questions, but I got to go soon. But this thing, I got a Nobles ODR1 finally. This is a legendary overdrive that folks like Tim Pierce and John Shanks are always raving about. I've heard Tim's, but I've never really played through a rig of my own, so I can't wait to try this thing. This is kind of like the anti-tube screamer or something. The guy that runs the company, he was explaining. He gave me one at the Guitar Summit. He was explaining it's like big and open as opposed to like that mid-range kind of hump like a tube screamer. So I don't know, maybe more like a flat mids kind of thing. I'm looking forward to trying this because it's the kind of secret weapon of a lot of guys like Shanks and Tim Pierce and studio people that seem to be in the know, Nashville guys. So look forward to trying. Christy says, any semi-hollow prospects in Japan, ES335. Does that mean like if you were looking to get one from Japan? I've seen some killer like Orville and Tokai and some of the Japanese kind of brands, 335s. You can definitely find a nice kind of Japanese-made 335. Okay. Alan says he's been a year without his guitars, weeks away from a reunion. That must be hard. Are you like stationed overseas or something? Where are you with no guitars? You need your guitars, my friend. Let's see here. Chris has recently got a guitar with the EMG 57 66 sets. They're pretty nice, really cool, clean tones. Yeah, active pickups seem to be cool for the cleans, right? Okay, moving down. I'm sorry if I missed your questions, guys. Once again, it's hard to get to absolutely everything, but it's fun. Please don't stop coming and seeing me here. Hey Pete, any 59 ampy pedals that have flubbyish bass that you like? Also, Zvex 59 sound. 59 ampy pedals. What do you mean, like Fender Tweedy kind of stuff with flubby bass? That's not something people usually ask for. They usually want tight to bass. I don't know. I have to think about that for a minute. Flubby bass. I don't want to say it's got flubby bass, but a box of rock definitely, when you get the gain up, has kind of, it's a JTM 45 style pedal, so it would be Bassman derived, and it definitely kind of has a looser kind of quality to it when you turn it up, albeit it's a great sounding pedal. So box of rock is cool. The boost in it is stellar. It's got that great Zvex kind of clean boost in it, and then the gain tones are very sort of JTM 45, real big, broad. Alan says, as long as it's a matched pair, talking about the tubes and biasing, yes, yeah, I would generally, you got to get a matched pair. Do you have to bias all amps? Says Dave. No. You have to check on the design of your amplifier. Some amps are cathode bias. For example, the Sir Badger 30, you can just pop the tubes in, and that'll work nicely. But if you, many amps are, just, if they're not cathode bias, you got to bias them, generally speaking. Some amps are fixed bias, like Mesas, and not fixed. What I mean by that is, actually kind of a misnomer, but like Mesa amps don't actually have a bias pot in them. I don't think you can adjust it, so you have to use tubes in their recommended range. If I'm not mistaken, they're all still like that. I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, best to check with a tech if you're not sure, or the manufacturer about your particular amplifier. Slate Boy says, how often do you use your Kemper? Quite a bit at home. I've used it quite a bit here for playing through and tracking and practicing and stuff. How is your signature pedal coming along? I do have something I'm working on that probably NAMM time that is just kind of a real useful tool. Yeah. Okay, moving down. Puffy G says, if you're getting a haircut tomorrow around 14 o'clock, drop by my buddy's coffee shop and I'll buy you another cup. This is a fellow that I saw recently at a place where I go to get my haircut sometimes. I ran into my coffee place here in California. Anyways, I'm not getting my haircut. I'm actually growing it a little bit. I'm going to try something new. So I'm going through the awkward grow out phase right now because it's so short and it's going to look dumb. So next week I may be in a hat. It's possible. My opinion on Jet City or Bugera amps. Never played a Bugera amp. The Jet Cities seemed like they were doing something cool there for a while with the Soldano collaboration. I think that's a smart way for those guys to go. Like hire an amp designer that really knows his stuff and try and make a budget thing and get that kind of, I guess Line 6 kind of did it with the Bogner thing. And I remember Soldano actually teaming up with Yamaha. Anybody remember those way back in the day? Making an amp called, I think it was the T100. And I always thought that was a kind of a, it lends some credibility. Adam says, thanks for your time today, Pete. Great to have your expertise and friendly help. Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate it. It's fun for me to be here and talk with you guys. I consider you my pals. And my MXR analog chorus does that, and it drives me nuts. That's what Scoobers90 says. The distortion thing? Yeah, it can happen on a lot of different chorus pedals, analog chorus pedals, a little distortion. It's something I didn't notice until maybe 10 years ago, and then I started realizing that modern analog choruses created some distortion sometimes. So some of them. Okay. Ever played a Tone King Imperial Mark II? Played it this week. Damn. I think I'll have to check my bank balance. Those are nice amps, the Tone Kings. I've played a few Tone King amps, yeah. I also wanted to try the Royal whatever. It was like the kind of, Marshall-inspired one. But he seems to do some good stuff. What's the rest of your year look like, says Chris Cam. Going to GitCon in 3 weeks in Germany to do that and make some cool videos and meet some other YouTube people that I've never met before, and it's gonna be fun. And other than that, I have so many videos to make for people that I'm just kind of looking forward to doing that, and also the studio. So doing a studio kind of build, not completely, but building some. It's hard to explain, but I'm in a building. I need to build a wall and a roof, and then lighting and the whole 9 yards, and get a studio desk, a new one, and have it all wired. And I'm really gonna go for it this time, I think, and make a space that feels really, really comfortable. I'm gonna build a little ISO closet for cabs, and that'll be what I use for miking cabinets for now on, because I'm not giving up on that. I feel like people still want to hear a mic speaker sometimes, so I'm gonna build a proper ISO closet that's big enough, have some air moving in it. And so it's a lot on my plate actually for the next few months, and I'm excited about it. My main goal is I want to increase my efficiency of making these videos and stuff. Have a nice space to work in that feels good, but also increase the efficiency of getting these things done. I still feel like, when I see some people like Tim, for example, Tim Pierce, he's got a real cool workflow and can kind of get to any of his gear really easily, just in his little zone there that you see him in on YouTube. He's got a great system. Amp switcher, for example, that's something I want to do. At least 4 amps I want to have on a switcher where I can switch between 4 different tube heads going to either load box or cabinets. Maybe have 2 cabinets, like a closed back and an open back, and have everything mic'd and just dialed in all the time, ready to go, so that I can a little bit more efficiently and quickly get work done. So I'm looking forward to that. Black Ninja says, asking, better guitar effect, MXR or DS2? Or, sir, what's a DS2? I'm not sure which pedals in particular you're asking about, but Braxall says, if you can only pick 3 pedals, what would they be? I would say I need a good delay, I need a good overdrive, and I need a compressor. And if I could have those 3 pedals, I can do just about everything. Specifics, I don't know. I'd have to think about it for a minute, but those would be the 3 types. The dirty Strat tone you get on A l'Avenir is l'Avenir. I can't say my own song title. Is killer. That's from Alan. That's actually the tone on that song is actually my gold. Is it the gold one or did I use the blue one? I can't remember. But it's my signature guitar through a plugin, and it does sound cool, I think, right? So it's not the PT100 plugin because I didn't have it at that point. It wasn't ready, but it's a BE100 plugin. So another Brainworks amp, and really similar to the PT in some ways, the tones you can get and stuff. The Brainworks guys just do a great job. So the main rhythm tone on that song is is a plugin. And it's pretty amazing what you can get out of amp plugins these days. Let's see. What's your preference, 6L6 or EL34? If I had to pick for clean sounds, I would pick the 6L6, but I like EL34 cleans, and it's sort of more important to me to have EL34 dirt. So that's why the PT100 has EL34s, because that dirty kind of mid-gain plexi thing is so important to me, and I feel like that's really important. Hugo says, been listening to the album on Apple Music. It's amazing. Into Focus is an amazing track. What guitar gear did you use for that track? Thanks. And I used my Surti with real heavy strings. It's tuned down to C sharp for that. That riff is, tuned down low. So I'm using a T on that through a treble booster. And into the SL68, so I want a real snotty kind of mid-rangey tone. Originally that had been a demo for a treble boost pedal, the 65 color boost, so that's what I used. Great sounding treble booster, by the way. And I think I'm running it into either this SL68 or PT100, I can't remember. So I used that. I also used my White Sir Classic, and I played a lot of the lead parts through a Kemper, actually, on that tune. It was one of the first songs I cut for the whole record. I think it was the very first song, actually. So yeah, I was cutting the solos at home. It was easy, and I had the Kemper hooked up. PT100 profiles that I made. So that's a few of the pieces of gear that I used on that. So it's a combination of miking, tube amps, and actually I don't think I'm mic'd. I think I'm using IRs. So it'd be Sir Reactive Load, Celestion IRs. The Surti treble booster in front of probably the SL68 was the amp, and then the lead guitars are the White Sir Classic through probably an Archer into the Kemper running PT100 profiles. I'm sorry, I'm shitty about documenting things, and sometimes it's hard for me to remember exactly what I did. Congrats on the UAD deal, says Fusion IDHM. When is the Wilkinson Trem coming out? Very soon. Trev told me that they're boxing them and sending them now. So, hopefully. Okay. Guys, I think I got a page all the way. I'm at about an hour and 40 minutes. I got to go. So I'm going to go all the way to the end of the chat and just look for a couple more questions. And I'm sorry, once again, if I missed your question. I really am. And thanks for the people that get involved in this super chat thing. It seems a little. I don't want to. I'm not asking anybody to do that, but I turned it on just in case. It's kind of like a thing where you pay a fee, and then your question pops up in this thing, so I see it right away. Anyway, I'm not asking anybody to do that, but I thought I'd turn it on and see, and a few people contributed to it in this chat, so it's much appreciated. I really do appreciate it, and if anybody wants to do that, thank you so much. And if you don't, please don't bother. Let's see. So I'm all the way at the end here, and Kemper or Bias says Ichem. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I like Bias. I think it's pretty good. The Kemper's obviously got advantages because you can pick it up and take it places without having to haul a computer and interface around. It seems like it's a little more. Oh, maybe you're asking about the Bias amp. Oh no, you said software. So you're wondering about for the tones. I think you're going to be able to get good tones out of Euler. But there's definitely differences there, like being able to, like I say, haul a Kemper to a session, or with the powered one, you could take it to a gig. It seems easier, I guess. With the software, it's going to be less expensive and more geared towards home use, I guess. Tonally, I bet I could probably get comparable sounds out of either. New album, says D. I thought you just reviewed gear. Yeah, man, I have 2 albums out. Guitar Nerd came out in 2011, and then I put out 3 or 4 singles between 2011 and this year, and just not a whole hell of a lot of output in that time, but I was doing other stuff. And then I put out a new record in June, so it's called Pete Thorn 2, and it's out now, everywhere. Hi from France, says Hupa, Hupa. What's up? Miss you, France. Do I teach private lessons at all? I did a few. That's from Austin. I did a few Skype lessons this year, which I kind of enjoyed, actually. Well, I mean, to the folks that got in on it, teaching hasn't been something that I've traditionally enjoyed for the last number of years, but that was fun. And it was some cool people, and I, you know, felt like I had some interesting things to teach, I guess, and they seemed to like it, and it was really interesting. One fellow was in Italy, and he did this amazing thing happened where he said at the end of the lesson, "I've got a special surprise for you. If you can just hold on for a minute, my mom's going to come in and play for guitar for you." And she came in and she kind of played like, I guess, it was sort of like flamenco guitar, and sat down. This woman, you know, and here I am in like Tokyo, and there's this lady halfway around the world playing guitar for me. You know, things like that happen. It was cool. It was really nice. So, you know, it's kind of fun. But I don't really have a system for it set up right now. It would be something that I consider doing more of, I think. But kind of a lot on my plate right now, especially the video thing. I've got a bunch of pedals. People are waiting for videos for things. I'm just kind of backed up with that, so I got to get that done. I feel like I can't really take on anything else at the moment, which is a quality problem. What did you do for tone for jam tracks on To Live and Die in Nashville? It's all Kemper, that song. I did it with Michael Britt profiles for the Kemper. That was kind of a Kemper Michael Britt profile demo. It was really To Live and Die in Nashville, and then I just ended up really liking the tune. I thought I might as well put this up and sell it. Mark says he's talking to Matt Harvey. Says Long and McQuaid or Stevens Music are the two big stores in the Montreal area. I wonder if you guys are talking about whether or not SIR's available or something, or maybe clinics, that kind of thing. Chris says, thanks, Pete. I'm going ES335 shopping. Any recommendations? 61 reissue, 63 reissue. Just got to try them. Give them all a try, and see what you dig the most. You know, neck shape and stuff. I did see that they've come out with a candy apple blue color that is hot. It's cool. It's not real traditional because I never had that, but it's a good looking guitar. I saw one in Japan, and I really liked it. Braxall says how to deal with noisy P90s. You might look into the Illich noiseless backplate kind of setup. Maybe there's something for your guitar that they make. I don't know. Other than that, you're kind of stuck with gates or getting a stacked type of P90 style pickup. Mike's making me read more. Mike Johnson's got more Hiragana up. Ori. Oh, God. Ori dato. Was that ga? Oh, that's an A. Sorry. Arigato, of course. Arigato. So I can't read the rest right now. My mind is not. Gazai. Oh, that's gozaimasu. Arigato gozaimasu. I'm like that, Mike. I'm too slow. Thoughts on Power Cab Plus? I have one sitting. Listen, that's a Power Cab Plus sitting right there. So I'm wanting to try it with IRs and load IRs into it, so I can really hear what it sounds like with my speaker simulation. So I can't wait to actually give that a try. Alan says Tim Pierce looks like he works in a spaceship. It's true. It's awesome. I agree. Tim's awesome. He's the man. He's an inspiration. Okay, I'm all the way at the end here. Austin says, totally understand if you ever start up again, I'd be interested. That's with regards to the Skype lessons. I'm local in LA, but would be interested in in-person lessons. Thanks, man. You know, I do some stuff through Jam Track Central. I've got a few lessons available on there, and I almost feel like in many ways those types of lessons are better. Like, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like, you know, there's so much out there now as far as instructional stuff that you can just get from a company like Jam Track, or Rick Graham is another. I met that guy for the first time the other day at my Peach Guitarist Clinic. Such a nice guy, and what an amazing guitar player. And he has so much instructional material available online. You could go there and get his courses and study for, you know, there'd be 5 years worth of material there that he's already got available. Or the Tim Pierce session guitar, you know, his master class that you can, you know, so much great stuff that you can get without having to sort of pay people for private lessons. I just feel like, it's a endless, you know. All right, you guys, I'm gonna split here pretty quick. Rick Graham's amazing, says Chris K. He really is amazing. He has incredible technique, but he also plays with feel. I find I get a feel out of him that I don't hear out of a lot of shredders. Like, you can hear every note so cleanly, but it's so in time and kind of groovy at the same time. And he can play slow, and it's really cool. So he's just a really special guitar player, I think. I'm not really into the tune out when I hear most shred, crazy sweep picking or whatever I tune, but he's special. He's different. It's a little bit like watching Yngwie or something. It's different. It's like, well, okay, we got to give it to him because he's really got the the chops and sort of a feel thing. It's really like a cut above or something. So Rick's pretty great. If you haven't checked out his lessons, check him out. rickgraham.com, I think, is his site, or just Google search Rick Graham guitarist. You'll find his site really quick. He's really incredible. Okay, guys, I got a Rick Beto is great. Also, did I pronounce his name right again? I hope maybe I mispronounced it because I keep mispronouncing that fellow's name. I'm really sorry about that if I did. But anyway, yeah, I know he's supposed to be a well-regarded instructor as well. And I think he's at GitCon. We're going to hang. Austin, one more question. Have you ever heard of Baby Metal? Yes, I saw them live at Summer Sonic last year, opening for Foo Fighters. It was killer. Baby Metal is rad. Amazing. Actually, I was told one of the guitar players wanted to try the PT-100, and I think it was the fellow that passed away. One of the guitar players was really amazing kind of shredder kind of guitar player, and he not sure what happened exactly, but he passed away, so it was really too bad because he wasn't that old, but anyway, Baby Metal. Unique and cool. Uniquely Japanese. I love all that. I mean, Japan, Baby Metal's a good. If you've never heard of them, go check them out. it's part of what's amazing about Japan is bands like Baby Metal. Okay, guys, I'm going to split. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week. I'll be here for at least the next couple weeks. The week after that, I think I've got to be on a plane at this time to be going to GitCon. But I'm around. I'll be here next week for sure. So and the week after that, I think. So I'll give another microphone, maybe either the big Samson large diaphragm USB mic or the AT2020 a try next week, and we'll see how that sounds. And I'll settle on something for these live streams. Okay, guys, take care. Have a great week, and I will see you all on the flip side. Take it easy.